Welcome to Agriculture Science 465, a class taught at Montana State University by Florence Dunkel.
Anybody else want to say anything about cognitive dissonance? It will happen, it should happen at some point in the class. It may happen the last day of class or when you're writing your final version of your research paper. We were supposed to be looking at intercultural competency, but the way it works out, the recommendation from last year is that we do not do the intercultural competency skill section, that we still do the visits from people from other cultures that we haven't had a chance to talk about or spend a lot of time with. So we will be having, like I said, the former member from this class, a TA who grew up in Vietnam. He'll be here sharing some things with us. We hope Jason will be back, and maybe Amy. There's a workshop on PowerPoint. People will be just about ready to print their posters, and then 3 weeks from today will be your presentation. And Professor Gregory Kahete.
I think what struck me most was that he has a mastery of speaking well about the subject. He teaches, I think, at the University of New Mexico, and then writes kind of extensively on native science perspectives, like alternative ways of knowing to the scientific method.
The thing I took away from it, or the one really large slide that stood out to me, was he was talking about how Native American peoples and more indigenous peoples' lives are centered around relation. Western world is centered around objects. Something that has to be understood when you're going into a community that is on the opposite side of the spectrum.
Do the people in Sonambole think that they are in poverty or not? I can't imagine them saying that they are in poverty. Maybe healthcare could be better, and maybe their educational system could be better, but they feel that they have the best of all worlds. I would like to have several of you extemporaneously demonstrate or involve us in your participatory activity.
Well, my activity was called Post-it Jenga. It was something that I developed last semester working with my design studio. We were doing some community engagement and facilitation. It's an activity that's designed to help a community address its issues and address allies that they could enlist in helping to resolve the issues, like organizations or heads of office. And then it also helps to identify ways that the individual can help to work towards change. If you guys want to write an issue that your community is facing on the red post-it.
So kwashiorkor and hunger and malnutrition, and that's just like what our group is working on.
Mine is insect infestation of their stored crops.
Grasshoppers getting into the pesticide fields.
And mine's just drought because of the short rainy season.
Does it look like there are a lot of things missing in this community? If this were the community. On the blue post-it, if you can write an ally other than yourself that you might be able to enlist to help resolve this issue.
Mine would be Florence.
Yes.
Mine is Kariba Kulabali.
Mine's just local farmers.
Mine's just any foreign aid group or medical aid team.
Now, how is this structure starting to look? How is it starting to change?
Pretty sturdy.
Yeah, it's like flushing out. It's getting a little sturdier. There aren't as many holes everywhere. Now on the blank post-it, if you could write an action that you yourself could take.
So if I was a farmer in Sonambole, my solution would be to plant further away, the cotton crops further away from the village.
I would try and research other coatings for the crops other than shea butter.
I just tried out for larger stores of food earlier when the rainy season's happening.
So I had two. If it was me, I would do a research project about insect farming to show how easy it is. And then if I was a villager, I would start insect farming.
Now there are no holes anywhere. It's kind of fully functioning.
To use the idea of the food pyramid, but to make it in a shape that makes sense to the community, so it doesn't necessarily have to be this triangle. Can anybody tell me different sections of what constitutes a well-balanced meal?
Fruits and vegetables.
Okay.
Do you do just the circle, like a plate?
Yeah.
Like a one big circle?
Or like a heart.
That'll work. So we'll do fruits and vegetables here.
For me, it's gotta be guiltlessly tasty.
Grain?
Grain.
Okay. We want to do grain and maybe protein?
But I think that's too general, because I mean, it could be like meat, it could be legumes. It could
Do we
be-
want to break protein up into
Yeah.
how many sections?
I think
have
animal products should
meat.
be separate for sure.
There's certain vegetables.
So we want to do animal and vegetable?
And
That's what
Oh,
you
fats.
said.
I thought you said rats.
No fats, sorry.
So we have fruits and veggies, protein, fats, and guiltlessly tasty. Are there any more sections? Yeah.
Isn't it fascinating when you stand back and take a look at what we all did?
Mhm.
I've never seen a food heart.
Me neither.
Western culture is hierarchical, and so the pyramid makes a lot of sense, but the circles are definitely in many, many cultures. Did you notice how the instructor here, or the facilitator, Maddie, learned a lot? She was forced to do something she hadn't done before. She had to think, think a little on her feet. Thank you. Let's give Maddie a hand.
They're proposing to build 2 community gardens on the Wind River Reservation. I decided to use the garden as part of a participatory activity, and using kind of the cultivation of plants to visually show what learning can do for the mind. So what I proposed was having each one is kind of like a brain, and so this is a brain that's constantly learning. And this one isn't. And having the Native Science Center here, everyday res life here. From there, I just kind of plant the same number of tomatoes or beans or squashes or whatever in each plot. And I think we probably do, maybe a little chunk of each one. This little part right here doesn't receive any additional water. It doesn't get weeded. It doesn't get maybe nutrients if you're putting them into it, so it's kind of like a mine that's kind of just hanging around. And whereas this one, they'd weed it and they'd water it and they'd make sure it's doing well. The idea is that by the end of the summer, they'd start to be able to see the one kind of come to fruit, and I'm sure the other one would probably grow something. I can imagine it gets kind of dry in Wyoming in the summer, so I'm sure it would be different. So we could talk about why learning is important and why, especially for them, learning about their culture and their traditions, very tangible, so they would actually be able to watch them grow.
These are all supposed to be even length of all the amino acids. And so then you have the bad stool with, it's missing like a couple sections. By insect farming or finding other staples for those missing amino acids, you put blocks in, and then you have a dirty stool.
So my diagramming would be with the women, the ones who are with the kids, and recognize like the child's development stages. Kind of pair the women in groups of 2 or 3. I would ask the women to maybe try and draw a healthy child at each stage, and then draw a child that they would recognize if the child had kwashiorkor, or what symptoms would look like within each stage, to draw what a healthy child looks like all the stages.
Right on, big smile.
Then the next phase would be for them to draw the symptoms of kwashiorkor. I guess now that I'm kind of looking at this, I realize it'd be pretty hard to draw the children.
Whenever you do this activity, there's maybe 30 kids around.
You can maybe draw a body and say point to the areas that show healthy or unhealthy, or what's unhealthy, and they point to the stomach or something like that.
Or it'd be a lot easier just to do the crops, ask them to draw what kinds of food the child's eating through each stage, and then we could relate what they're eating to kwashiorkor.
We'll try and present some of the posters from previous classes and try and do it in a one-on-one inquiry basis.